She whispered to the camera, "What the hell happened in this room?" Suddenly, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. No signal all night, but now a text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't be here." Then the power died. All of it. Total black. Only the sound of Chloe's breath, now fast, shallow. She switched to night vision. The room looked different through the lens. Rotten wallpaper was now covered in names, scrawled in charcoal. Some scratched deep into the wall. Dozens of them. All first names. And at the bottom, freshly written, still wet, Chloe Harper. She dropped the camera. She didn't scream. Not yet, because in the darkness, just behind her, a voice whispered again. "Now you belong to the room." Chloe's hand trembled as she picked up the camera again, her night vision flickering erratically. The names on the walls, scrawled in charcoal and fresh blood, seemed to distort in the darkness. They moved, shifted like they were alive, as if the walls themselves were breathing. She turned the camera back to the mirror. In the reflection, her face was different. She looked aged, haggard, eyes wide and sunken, skin pale and drawn, like someone who hadn't slept in days. A stranger's face. Her pulse hammered in her throat. She stumbled back, knocking over the dresser. The crash echoed through the empty, decaying hotel. A figure appeared in the reflection again, only this time it was standing right behind her. Chloe froze. The figure was taller than anyone she'd ever seen. It had the shape of a man but was far too tall, too long. Its skin was leathery, its face an empty void, blacker than the darkest night. It grinned, stretching its mouth far too wide. The growl, that deep, guttural sound, rumbled from the thing's chest. It leaned forward, lips curling. "You've come too far." Her breath hitched, her throat tightening. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. Something had closed off her voice. The room shifted. The walls groaned. The windows cracked open, letting in the oppressive cold air. The distant sound of a bell tolled from deep within the hotel, the unmistakable chime of an old-fashioned clock ringing out, despite there being no clock in the room. Just echoes. The name, Chloe Harper, appeared again, but this time it was carved into the wood of the bed frame. A force slammed her into the bed, pressing down on her chest. She gasped for air, struggling to move. Something invisible held her there, suffocating her, making her vision blur. In the distance, she could hear the faint sound of whispers, soft, pleading voices. The last thing Chloe saw on her camera was the reflection in the mirror, her own face slowly contorting into a twisted, unnatural grin, her eyes emptying out like hollow sockets. Chloe fought for breath, each gasping inhale coming slower and more labored. The invisible force pressing against her chest felt like the weight of the entire building, the weight of history itself. She reached out weakly toward the camera. Her fingers brushed against it, and in the night vision, her hand touched the reflection of the man standing in the doorway. The moment her fingers connected with the lens, everything stopped. The pressure on her chest lifted, and the room fell eerily silent. For a moment, Chloe thought she might be free. But when she turned her head to look at the doorway, the figure was gone. She stumbled off the bed, eyes darting around the room, looking for any sign of movement, any hint that something was watching her. And then she saw it. In the far corner of the room, near the closed door, a door that wasn't there before, it was slightly ajar. A cold breeze wafted from within, and she could hear the faintest whispers calling her name. Chloe hesitated, but, driven by a mixture of fear and curiosity, stepped toward it. Each step echoed on the wooden floor a heavy, deliberate sound as if the building itself was watching her. She reached for the door. And then she froze. In the dim light, she saw something that nearly made her heart stop. The walls weren't just covered with names. They were covered in dates, specific dates that matched historical events. Each name had a date beside it, carved deeply into the wood, some dating back to the 1800s. But Chloe's name was different. It wasn't carved into the wall. It was burned, like it had been branded there with fire. Terror exploded in her chest as she stepped forward, reaching out to touch the name. And as her fingers brushed against the scorched wood, the ground beneath her feet shuddered violently. The room darkened as a chill wrapped around her. The whispers became more frantic, as if they were growing desperate. A deep, haunting voice boomed in the darkness. "You can't leave. You've been marked." Chloe stumbled back, eyes wide, her mind racing for a way out. She turned to run, but before she could even move, the door slammed shut behind her with an earth-shaking thud. She was trapped. And that's when she heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming toward her from a hallway. Footsteps that didn't belong to anyone in the room. A flash of light broke through the darkness, flickering, casting long shadows against the walls. Chloe's eyes locked on the hallway, where she saw a figure emerging from the shadows. It wasn't human. It was something far older. Tall, skeletal, with blackened eyes and rotting skin that seemed to crawl with decay. Its face was that of a woman, but twisted in agony, her mouth wide open as if screaming, yet no sound came. Its hands were long and bony, each finger ending in a jagged, broken nail. The figure stopped in the doorway, and it whispered in a language Chloe couldn't understand. But one word echoed through her mind, clear as day. Help. Then the figure reached for her. Chloe stood frozen in terror as the skeletal figure reached toward her, its eyes empty and hollow. Its fingers were long and twisted, sharp as claws, and as it moved closer, an overwhelming stench of decay filled the room. The air grew thick with a suffocating presence, something ancient and malevolent. Help. The word came again, but this time Chloe could understand it. The voice wasn't begging for mercy. It was a command. The thing's hand brushed against Chloe's face, its touch cold like death itself. She gasped, recoiling, but before she could move, the room shifted again. Everything around her began to warp and twist. The walls cracked open, and the floor began to buckle. The spirits, the tortured souls of those who had been trapped in room 616, all began to materialize. They gathered around her, their faces distorted in eternal pain, some reaching out to her, others staring blankly into the void. Chloe tried to scream, but her voice was stolen. The darkness closed in, swallowing the room whole. Her body felt weightless, like she was sinking into the floor itself. "You don't leave." The voice from behind her again, louder this time, shaking the very foundation of the hotel. The skeletal figure stepped forward, standing at the center of the room. Its head tilted, studying Chloe with an eerie sense of recognition. It wasn't just a ghost. It was something worse, something ancient. The curse of room 616 had existed for centuries, feeding on the souls of anyone who dared to enter. Each spirit was bound to the room by their own unfinished business, their own death that was never avenged. And now Chloe was one of them. The figure reached out again, its long fingers wrapping around her throat. The moment it touched her, a flood of memories rushed through her mind, images of the past guests, the horrific deaths, the pain, the torment. Chloe saw her own face, just like the others, twisted, decayed, her eyes blackened and empty. The figure whispered once more, "You are ours now, forever." Suddenly, Chloe's vision blurred. Her surroundings disappeared. There was no room, no hotel, just blackness. Chloe's last moment. The final scene is silent. The camera lens cuts to black. The whisper continues, the words echoing, barely audible in the distance. Room 616 claims all who enter.